She lit 3 candles before saying it. Not 2, not 4, always 3. 1 for power, 1 for protection, and 1 for control. That's what she whispered the last time I asked. I stopped asking after that. There's something about watching your wife perform a ritual before threatening you that robs the room of curiosity. She didn't look up when she said the words. She just held the 3rd candle in her hand like it was a weapon and murmured, "Submit or suffer." Not screamed, not hissed, whispered, like it wasn't a threat, just an inevitable truth. Something ancient and binding. And I swear to God, something inside me snapped in that exact moment. Not loud, not explosive, just a clean break, like a string under tension finally giving way. I didn't respond. I didn't even stand. I just turned my head slowly, looked at the back of her silk robe, gold, embroidered, untouched by time or guilt, and walked out the door barefoot. My car keys were still inside. My shoes too. But I had my phone, my ID, and one thing I hadn't felt in years, silence. That was 4 months ago. She didn't chase me. Of course she didn't. That's not how people like her work. They don't chase. They summon. And 3 days later, she tried. 1 missed call. 2. Then a message. "You're being dramatic. Come back before you embarrass yourself." I didn't answer. Then came the 3rd message. "Lyle, don't test me." By the 7th, she sent a photo of the wedding ring I left behind, burning in the candle flame. Captioned, "Freedom." It was never about love. Not really. Not for her. It was about ownership, obedience, control disguised as intimacy. And when I finally stepped out of her web, I saw the strands for what they were, spun from ego and gasoline. But she made one mistake, one fatal miscalculation. She thought I was weak because I stayed. She thought walking away was a surrender. She had no idea it was just the first strike. Because while she burned my ring, she didn't notice I took the ledger. She didn't notice I forwarded the photos. She didn't know I was already talking to the one person she never thought I'd find. The woman who taught her everything she knew about manipulation. Her mother. And that's when it all began to fall apart. I didn't go far that first night. Just wandered until my feet were raw and my head was finally empty. Slept in my car in a strip mall parking lot next to a broken neon sign that blinked 24-hour nails in a dying pulse. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was observing her from a distance. Quietly. Strategically. Because when someone gives you an ultimatum like submit or suffer, they assume you'll either crawl back or break down. Darla never imagined a third option, that I'd watch her implode with no interference. By day 4, her tone shifted. The calls stopped. The messages, too. But I wasn't stupid. I knew silence from her wasn't peace. It was preparation. That's when I checked the shared accounts. 3 of them drained. My name removed from the credit card. Our storage unit access code changed. It wasn't just emotional blackmail. She was wiping me off the grid. Neatly. Surgically. Like I was a failed experiment. I still said nothing. I checked her Instagram instead. A new photo every day, glowing skin, wine glasses, cryptic captions like, "Healing looks good on me," and "Watch me thrive." Always that same silk robe in the background. Like a trophy, she couldn't stop flaunting. She wanted me to see her shine without me. She wanted to win a war I hadn't even agreed to fight. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't alone. I had backup. Remember how I mentioned her mother? Yeah, Elaine. The woman Darla hadn't spoken to in 5 years. The one she claimed was toxic, controlling, a narcissist. Turns out, those were all Darla's favorite mirror insults. I called Elaine from a burner number and said 7 words. "I think it's time we talk, finally." She met me 2 towns over at a diner that smelled like syrup and secrets. And the moment she sat down, before I could even say why I'd called, she said, "She's unraveling, isn't she?" I nodded. Elaine sipped her tea like she'd been waiting for this moment since the day we got married. I taught her everything she knows, but she never learned the cost. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I just wanted peace. Closure. A clean exit from the storm. But what Elaine offered me wasn't revenge. It was something colder. Sharper. She handed me a leather-bound journal, one Darla had kept when she was younger. A detailed log of manipulation experiments she tried on friends, teachers, old boyfriends. Psychological games. Control tactics. Predictions. She called it her power book, Elaine said with a sigh. I took it before she could burn it. I always knew one day someone would need it. And suddenly, I had everything. Proof. Patterns. Plans. Darla wasn't impulsive. She was a chess master. But she made one arrogant move. She underestimated the pawn. So I made my first move. Quiet. Calculated. I posted 3 anonymous tips. To her HR department, her firm's ethics board, and her city's business bureau. About her side income. About her workplace retreats. About the married executive she'd been mentoring. All I had to do then was wait. And oh, did the silence that followed feel like music. It started with a photo. Not from me. I didn't have to lift a finger. Someone from her office. Someone who'd seen her little wine-soaked leadership retreats for what they really were, sent the first blow. A blurry, too close selfie of Darla leaning far too comfortably on a man I recognized. Not because I'd met him, but because his name had once flashed across our kitchen table when she accidentally left her phone unlocked. Marcus Bell, her regional director. Married. 2 kids. Christian family values type, or so his LinkedIn claimed. The photo landed in her firm's group chat. Not anonymous. Deliberate. I didn't share it. I didn't have to. That's the thing about people like Darla. They build towers so high, they don't notice how brittle the foundation is. One kick, one whisper, one slip, and the whole thing comes down like glass. By the end of the week, her LinkedIn was down. Her Instagram, scrubbed clean. I checked the ethics board's website. Marcus Bell was under internal review. And just like that, the robe photos stopped. No more cryptic captions. Just silence. I thought I'd feel victorious. I thought I'd celebrate. Maybe scream into a pillow or finally sleep through a night without clenching my teeth. But I didn't. I felt weird. Not guilty, not happy. Just empty. Like I'd won a game I never wanted to play. That weekend, I went back to the house. Not to return, just to collect some things. It was early. Cold. The sky had that gray color that makes everything feel like it's underwater. I didn't expect her to be there. But she was. Sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor in that same gold robe, stained this time. Mascara down her face. Hair undone. A half-eaten apple on the tile next to her, like she forgot what food was supposed to do. She didn't speak when I walked in. Didn't even flinch. Just stared at the wall like it had betrayed her. I could have gloated. I could have said, told you. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my duffel from the hallway closet and paused. Just a moment. Just long enough to hear her voice croak something almost inaudible. I thought you'd come back when it was over. I turned. Met her eyes. It is over, I said. You just didn't notice. That's when she cried. The real kind. The kind you can't perform or fake or use for manipulation. And for a second, just a second, I saw the girl I fell in love with. Before the power games. Before the control. Before the ultimatums. But the second passed, and the woman left sitting there wasn't the girl I loved. She was a stranger in my kitchen, mourning a version of herself she built on lies. I didn't console her. I walked past her, through the living room, opened the drawer under the coffee table, and took back the one thing she hadn't burned, my old journal. The one I stopped writing in when she told me journaling was unattractive. Now I was ready to write again. Because this wasn't the end. Not yet. Not even close. I thought walking out would be the hardest part. I thought the pain would come from missing her. The scent of her hair on the pillow, the sound of her steps in the hallway, the way her laugh used to sound when it was real. But no, the hardest part was watching her still pretend she had control. Even now, even after everything. I stayed at a friend's guest house, a guy named Boyd I hadn't seen in years. We used to build computers together back in high school, before he moved out of state and became some kind of data analyst for a company I couldn't pronounce. I called him on a whim, expecting a polite no, but he said, "Get over here. You sound like death." When I showed up, he handed me a key, a beer, and didn't ask a single question. That silence saved me. From there, I watched her spin in circles, trying to regain the image she'd built for herself. Darla was always more obsessed with appearances than reality. Even after the HR probe began and the ethics committee requested her emails, she still posted a quote on her Facebook page: "Strong women fix their crowns, not cry over the fall." The kind of thing people repost without realizing the person behind it is 2 seconds away from collapse. But I knew her better than anyone. I knew she wasn't crying because she was strong. She was crying because the walls were closing in and no one was there to stop it. For once in her life, Darla had no script, no backup plan, no one to shift blame onto. Not her team, not her lovers, and not me. That week, I got a letter from our shared financial planner. Apparently, Darla had tried to move the remaining joint investment into her sole account, claimed it was to protect assets during separation. What she didn't know was that I'd already locked the account the week before, froze every cent until legal decisions could be made. The planner added a handwritten note. Wise move, Mr. Marin. She looked surprised. That made me smile, just a little. But the real twist came on Thursday. I received a package. No return address. No message. Just a plain manila envelope, sealed tight. Inside, photos, printed ones, physical, and a flash drive. I almost didn't look at them. I assumed it was junk. But curiosity got the better of me. They weren't for me. They weren't for me. They were of her, and Marcus, and someone else, someone I couldn't immediately identify, in what looked like a private hotel suite. Not obscene, but implicating. Enough to ruin a career. Enough to trigger legal consequences if used in the right hands. The flash drive contained video, short clips, muffled audio, laughter, whispered names, times, locations. She had no idea someone had been documenting her spiral, but someone had, and now they were mailing it to me. I stared at the envelope for a long time. Not angry, not shocked, just disturbed. Who had sent it? One of her victims? One of Marcus's enemies? Or someone even closer? And what was I supposed to do with it? My phone buzzed that night. It was her. First message in days. I know you think you won, but you don't understand what you've started. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, then down at the flash drive still sitting in my lap. Because here's the thing about fire. Once it starts, it doesn't care who lit the match. And Darla? She was just beginning to realize she wasn't the one holding the lighter anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared. I was past that stage, but because my mind wouldn't stop rewinding. Who had sent those photos? Why now? What were they hoping I'd do with them? This wasn't just dirt. It was dynamite. The kind that doesn't just destroy reputations, it nukes lives. And Darla knew it. That message she sent wasn't a warning. It was panic disguised as confidence. I could feel the tremble underneath her words. For someone who once looked at me like I was furniture, she was now watching me like I held the detonator. I spent the next day thinking about the drive. Should I go public? Should I forward it to the ethics committee? A lawyer? Her family? I didn't know if I wanted justice or just closure. But then, something happened that made the decision easier. A knock on the door. Boyd answered. It was a courier, not a cop, not a friend, just a random delivery guy with another envelope. This one addressed to my legal name, not just Lyle. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Cease and desist. From her lawyer. The woman who told me to submit or suffer was now sending me legal threats because I wouldn't sit quietly and let her rewrite the story. Apparently, she claimed I had stolen private marital property and was distributing defaming content. The irony nearly made me laugh. She was scared. That much was clear. But instead of responding, I decided to observe. Carefully, quietly. Boyd had a few surveillance cameras set up on his property. He was paranoid about porch pirates, and I asked if we could check the feed for the last 24 hours. I don't even know why I asked. Just a hunch. And there she was. Midnight. Hoodie. No makeup. Standing in his driveway like a ghost. Hands shaking. Holding what looked like a small notebook, flipping through it under the porch light. And then she left. Didn't knock. Didn't ring. Just hovered. She'd followed me. The robe-wearing queen of the world was now lurking outside a guest house she never even knew existed a month ago. And in her hands? It had to be her backup plan. Or maybe the real power book. Not the old journal Elaine had given me, but the updated version. Her secrets. Her leverage. The same stuff she used to keep people in line. I made a copy of the footage. Kept it quiet. Then, out of pure instinct, I called Elaine. She picked up immediately. She's unraveling, isn't she? She said again. No, I replied. She already unraveled. Now she's just trying to gather the scraps. Elaine sighed. You're going to need help. She doesn't go down easy. I didn't respond right away, because part of me still didn't believe we were here. That this was real. That the woman I once kissed under an apple blossom tree was now the one trying to threaten, stalk, and legally muzzle me. I asked Elaine, why did she hate you so much? She hesitated. Because I saw through her. And that's when I realized, maybe Darla didn't fear losing her career, or reputation, or money. Maybe what terrified her the most was someone finally seeing who she really was. And that meant she wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The next move didn't come from me. It came from someone I didn't even know existed, a woman named Callie. I got a voicemail from an unfamiliar number, the kind you usually block without thinking. But her voice stopped me cold. "Hi, you don't know me, but I think we've both been used by the same woman. If you're Lyle, please call me back." She didn't mention Darla by name. She didn't have to. There was a kind of exhausted tremble in her voice, the sound of someone who'd just realized how deep the rabbit hole went and had no rope to climb out. I called. Callie was quiet at first, unsure if I was real. Said she had to confirm my voice matched the one she'd heard in the background of an old voicemail Darla accidentally sent her. Apparently, they were friends once, met through some self-help group Darla was dabbling in last year. Darla had told her she was in a toxic marriage with a controlling, jealous man who wouldn't let her grow. That man was me. Callie believed her at first. She even offered support, moral check-ins, late-night calls. But over time, Darla started asking strange questions. About finances, about emotional boundaries, about how to get out of a relationship without legal mess. Callie got suspicious when Darla started asking for screenshots of conversations with her ex-boyfriend, under the pretense of research for a paper. I felt like she was building a dossier, Callie said. Not just on me, on everyone she talked to. I asked her why she was reaching out now. She hesitated, then said something that made my skin go cold. Because I think she's planning something. Apparently, Darla had been trying to get dirt on me, contacting old coworkers, messaging my exes, even tried to reach out to Boyd under a fake name, a detail that made my heart sink. Boyd hadn't mentioned it. Maybe he hadn't realized. Or maybe he was giving her rope to hang herself with. "She's trying to preempt whatever she thinks you're going to do," Callie said. "She's scared, but that makes her worse. Cornered animals don't surrender, they bite." That same day, I received a subpoena notice. She was suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The kind of lawsuit that reeks of desperation. I didn't even flinch. The footage, the messages, the fake accounts. I had more than enough to dismantle the claim. But what chilled me wasn't the legal side. It was the effort, the obsession. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to bury me under noise, under paperwork, under the illusion that she was still in control. But she wasn't. And deep down, she knew it. I drove back to our house that night. I don't even know why. Maybe I needed to see it again. Maybe I needed to remind myself that it was real, that I lived through it. The porch light was off, the windows dark. I expected silence. Instead, I saw her silhouette standing in the living room, facing the door, waiting. I didn't knock. I didn't go in. I just stood on the edge of the property and watched her through the glass. She didn't move. She just stared out, like she could feel me watching. And for the first time, I felt something strange. Pity. She had burned everything to the ground just to prove she could. And now she was standing in the ash, wearing a crown made of smoke. But I wasn't stepping into the ruins. Not this time. I turned, walked back to my car. As I closed the door, my phone lit up again. It was Elaine. 3 words. She crossed the line. Elaine didn't explain in the message. She never did. She believed in letting weight sit for a moment, letting it sting before the details came. I called her back instantly, and she answered on the first ring. No pleasantries. "She went after your work, Lyle," she said flatly. I sat back in Boyd's kitchen chair, trying to process. "What do you mean, went after?" Elaine exhaled like she didn't want to say it out loud. "She filed a complaint with your old employer. Claimed you harassed her emotionally and digitally. That you used company equipment to stalk her. I have a friend in compliance there. He flagged it. Said it was riddled with inconsistencies." My mouth went dry. That job. I hadn't even been there in over a year. But if that lie stuck, it could bleed into my record. Future references. Background checks. And that's when I realized something terrifying. She didn't care if she looked crazy. She was willing to torch her own credibility, just to make sure I was standing in the same flames. "She's cornered," Elaine said again. "This is her full collapse. The last shot before she implodes." I should have felt afraid. I should have been bracing for more. But instead, something inside me settled. Because you don't reason with someone like Darla. You don't argue, don't fight, don't play fair. You document. You prepare. And you wait for them to trigger their own downfall. And she had just pulled the trigger. Boyd was already ahead of me. When I came out of the call, he was scrolling through video clips, combing through motion alerts on his cameras. You remember when she stood in the driveway last week? He said. She came back. Twice. Different hoodie. Left something near the trash bins. We checked the feed. Sure enough, there she was, crouching by the fence, tucking a small Ziploc bag into a crack in the boards, then walking away like it meant nothing. We went outside and found it within 5 minutes. Inside, a thumb drive. Another one. This time it was labeled insurance. I plugged it into Boyd's laptop with trembling hands. One folder. Inside it, dozens of voice memos, all labeled by date. Darla's voice on every single one. Audio diaries, essentially. Full of venom. Full of plotting. Some of them were practice runs, the same sentence repeated with different tones. Others were rants about people who owed her. One memo chilled me to the core. Lal doesn't realize yet, but I'm rewriting the story. I'll make him sound like a sad little man who got left behind by a woman who grew up. That's how they'll see it. They'll forget the rest. That's the trick. She knew. She knew exactly how people perceive breakups. She was counting on the fact that if she cried loud enough, and I stayed silent, the world would take her side by default. Except I wasn't silent anymore. The very next day, I handed everything, to a lawyer. Not for revenge. For protection. Legal shielding. I filed a formal response to her false harassment claim. I included the voice memos, the driveway footage, the financial tampering, every breadcrumb she left in her mess of a spiral. My lawyer said, "You didn't just protect yourself. You gave us a missile." Meanwhile, Elaine had been working on her own front. She reached out to an old journalist friend who specialized in corporate ethics scandals. A quiet inquiry turned into an informal investigation. The journalist reached out to Darla's old assistant, who, turns out, had been waiting for someone to ask questions. By the end of the week, Darla was placed on indefinite leave from her firm. 2 days after that, her luxury car was repossessed. And the day after that, she showed up at Boyd's place. Not angry, not loud. She knocked softly, stood there like a statue. I looked her in the eye through the window. She didn't look furious. She looked lost. And for the first time in this whole twisted nightmare, she whispered, "Please." But there was no coming back. Because some apologies arrived too late. Not just to forgive, but to matter. She didn't cry. Not at first. She just stood there in the cold with her hands in the sleeves of that ridiculous gold robe. Yes, the same one. The same robe she wore when she gave me that ultimatum, submit or suffer. And here she was now, on the other side of it all, shivering, makeup less, no audience, no script, no throne. Just her, and the consequences she thought would never reach her. "Please," she whispered again, softer this time, like even she didn't believe it would work. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. Because this story, my story, didn't end with another power game. It ended with peace. Quiet. My own breath in my own chest. Not borrowed air from someone who used love as leverage. I spoke through the glass. Calm. Steady. You told me to submit or suffer, Darla. And I chose neither. I chose freedom. She blinked. That flicker of ego was still there, trying to calculate a response, trying to shape the moment back in her favor. But the moment was gone. The era of her controlling the narrative was over. I turned away, walked back to the couch, let Boyd handle the door. And that was the last time I saw her in person. She left quietly. No more threats. No more emails. No more insurance drops. Just silence. Maybe she finally saw it. Maybe she finally realized that the world she built on intimidation had collapsed, and I wasn't standing in the rubble waiting for her. I was already somewhere else. 3 months later, I got a call from the firm. The investigation was closed. She was separated from the company, their words. Her legal threats were dropped. Her assistant filed her own complaint. Darla vanished from the corporate scene like smoke in a storm. And me? I moved out of Boyd's place. Got a small apartment with real sunlight and zero memories. I pulled the old journal out of the box and started writing again, not about her, but about me. About rediscovering who I was before I became someone's emotional hostage. I got a job offer too. Ironically, from someone who had seen my quiet professionalism during the storm and respected how I handled it. You kept your dignity, they said, even when she tried to drag you under. But the best part? I met someone. Not a replacement. Not a distraction. Just a real person. Someone who laughed without agenda. Who didn't need to control. Who asked questions instead of issuing commands. Her name's Odessa. Yeah, I know, not exactly common. She's a ceramic artist who works with her hands, drinks too much coffee, and has never once tried to improve me. The first time she touched my face, I flinched. And then I told her everything. She didn't run. She didn't pity me. She just nodded, took my hand, and said, "You've already won." And maybe she's right, because the woman who thought I'd crumble is gone, and the man she tried to erase, he's just getting started.